Outlander is a 2008 sci-fi action film written by Howard McCain and Dirk Blackman, with McCain directing. The film follows Jim Caviezel's character, Kanan, who has crash-landed in Iron Age Norway. Stranded, he must survive, but he is not alone, for a creature is stowed away, and is now roaming the wilds. Caught between two factions, distrusted by all, he must manage to win their loyalty, and turn the tables on what one might call a dragon.
A dragon.
Now, many of you may recognize the name Jim Caviezel. I normally remember him from Person of Interest, while others think of The Passion of the Christ. Most recently, he was in the weirdly controversial, at least within certain circles, film Sound of Freedom. Funny enough, this was actually the first film I saw him in way back when I was a child. It proved rather hard to find this movie due to me confusing its title with Highlander and the fact I thought it starred Antonio Banderas. Also, there's a TV show called Outlander, but it looks boring. That fun bit of my history out of the way, let's jump right in with Outlander. Or dive right in, as that's exactly what our hero ship is doing. Diving right into a lake from which only two escape. Well, I wouldn't be able to rest if enemies were nearby. Holy shit, enemies were nearby. Okay, it's kind of iffy on what happened. Sure, Kane here, I'm gonna call him Kane, he dragged his battle buddy up out of the water, and I couldn't make out if any damage was on his suit, but last we saw, he had his helmet closed. So I guess the thing that caused the crash assumed Kane was dead and stabbed player 2. Oh, and flashbacks of wife, child, in flames, which, now that I said it out loud, sounds like a really sick power metal song. So, after uploading old Rosetta Stone to his brain, setting the recovery beacon, and burying his brother in Earth's first burial above dirt, Kane heads out. Without the sci-fi armor that proved strong enough to survive the crash and would have reasonably protected him from any natives. At least he has his rifle.
Weapon.
Damn! It's so effective it can set off pyrotechnics from at least 75 meters. Moving out, he finds a village completely ransacked by what he believes to be his target. The investigation is interrupted by some kind of beast in the tree line. Giving chase, Kane is promptly reminded of why you wear your sci-fi helmet. Also, yes, that is the last you see of the gun. Here's hoping some dipshits in the Middle East don't start calling it a piece of Eden. Well, apparently Jim Christ Caviezel couldn't go 5 fucking seconds without being tied to some wood. While he's tapped out, let's meet King Hrothgar, played by John Hurt, and his daughter Freya, played by Sophia Myles. They're having a classic dispute of if she should wed a particular man.
Frick will be a good man. With you by his side may be a good thing.
By beating the ever-loving shit out of each other. I will give this film credit for having a unique standoff bind. One that is more realistic than the typical cross swords, kind of. In short order, they discover why people practice with wooden or blunted swords. Oh, and Conan Jason Momoa here is Wulfric, played by Jack Huston. He's the one who wants to marry Freya.
I will take care of you.
No luck with the ladies. Ha! Been there. Still there. Not planning on leaving anytime soon. This motel always has a vacancy. Like my heart. Anyways, Wulfric comes with news to report. Village attacked. Other ruler will blame them. One stranger found. String him up and beat the shit out of him until he talks. The funny part is that he's actually very honest.
Tell me, why were you there? Where were your men?
Told you. Don't lie to me.
Well, after a few rounds of mashing the action button, it's time to call in Freya for some TLC. He asked for water and, well, the ladle was right there, but I mean, I wouldn't complain. You see how fucking Tarantino takes his drink? What she'll complain loudly about, however, is that Cain has freed himself. Down 2 captors and up 2 boots, Cain makes his escape. Meanwhile, something makes its infiltration. This all leads to complete fucking chaos. The locals think it's a neighboring faction led by Gunthar. Cain hunts for the beast, and the beast... Well, on the bright side, it'll be hard to blame Cain for that one. What is Cain doing anyways? Well, after a really cool 3-way game of cat and mouse, he attempts to chase the creature, only to be halted as it runs off. Oh, and this is no ordinary beast. It recognizes Cain when he calls it out, and only runs due to the throng of people oncoming. One PTSD-triggered flashback, and I'm reminded how much that armor would have helped. Well, hey, here's a kid for you to befriend. If I can say nothing else about this film, let me say that the whole is very impressive. Even if it makes me think more of the elves from Hellboy 2.
Visited upon us because you buried King Helge like a pagan and not like a Christian.
My father was a Viking. He worshipped Odin, not some woodworker nailed to a cross.
Well, just in case, we brought the woodworker. Cain explains that it's a Morwen, and that his crew was killed and his ship crashed here. Conveniently enough speaking in ways that they don't get too deep into the weeds about him coming from space. I do like how the king is the first to realize what Cain says is true. He does it a few times in this film, and it just fits given that he's meant to be this wise old veteran king. Well, off they go to hunt the beast. Their search eventually brings them to a cave. What do they find? A bear. A big fucking bear. Despite Cain knowing the bear isn't what's killing, he is relieved to not be imprisoned anymore. And hey, saving the king is a pretty good icebreaker for the princess. I see this as an absolute win. We then hit what is probably this film's most well-known segment, shielding.
What now?
Follow me.
Yes, you're seeing that right. Jesus walked on water and on shields. No, I can't find any evidence of this being real. Still looks fun though. Jackass reboot when? As Cain tells Freya that the true beast is still out there, the fort comes under attack. Not by any beast, but by Gunnar's forces. Also, don't expect me to tell you what exactly is happening. The film isn't dark enough so as not to describe the fighting, but I can't fucking tell who is who. All you need to know is that Gunnar is played by Ron Perlman, and his side is forced back.
Where's my wife? Where's my boy?
And in short order, he comes rushing back.
Hold your fire, you bastard! Fire!
Well, they need a plan. Wulfric wants to go out and hunt it, while Cain suggests trapping it. I mean, I feel like one of them here has the remote chance of having played Monster Hunter. So a trap is set into motion, with a deep hole, black tar, and poles secured in place. Wait a minute, this does sound familiar. And shields! Before the trap can be put into motion, Cain reveals to Freya the backstory. Essentially, his species expanded and colonized planets. They wiped out the Morwens to what they thought was extinction. However, a few lingered, and they tore into the civilians left behind. Morwen for Helldivers 2 DLC when? Come nightfall, Cain and Wulfric stand ready to serve as live bait. The creature comes and, oh yeah, I forgot there was a way too early priest here.
Quit this place!
Anyways, running across the shields, Wulfric falls in, but is able to escape just in time as a trap is set aflame, probably killing or wounding most of them, but surely taking out the beast. Or not. Also, there's a baby one that snuck into the hole and, well... Righty then. At least Gunnar went out like Matthew McConaughey in Rain of Fire. Right, so our current weapons don't work and fire didn't work. I'm sure 8th century blacksmithing can melt down alien metal. Cain dives down and retrieves scrap, but upon emerging, Freya is missing. The beast has abducted her. Shame you can't find your rifle blaster, pyrotechnic doohickey. God, that sure would come in handy right about now. Well, hey, at least you got a great sword for this monster hunting. Moving deep into the creature's lair, they spot the baby one feasting. I will say that the creature's CGI has definitely worked best at night, as the red light it emits along with the blue is actually really good and has aged surprisingly well. When it's on clear display though, the CGI shows its age. Right here, it holds up rather well. What the fuck is going on with made-for-TV films with space dragons and decent CGI back in the early 2000s? I have no fucking idea. Well, it kills the last extra, so they blind it. The creature then kills the comedy relief, so they stab and decapitate it. The big one wakes up and kills Wolfric. Then
he sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way.
So after some back and forth, Kane finally disarms the threat. I suppose the fall could kill it, or maybe it bled out. Either way, I would track down the corpse. So, I'm dying. I guess you get the girl. And the title of king? But does he? For he has returned to the beacon and they just fuck off. Did he blow a fuse? Was he attacked? Did he get a wire crossed? It wasn't a crash after all. Fuck him, he'll be fine. He's got the dream right now. So that's where the saga ends. Being made on a budget of $50 million, Outlander was sadly a flop, making just over $7 million worldwide. It would first release in Latvia July 11, 2008, followed by multiple film festivals in Germany and Switzerland. It would see a limited screening in the USA starting January 23, 2009. The final release is August 6, 2010 in Japan with a DVD premiere. Largely the film would be called Outlander, though Brazil would have Outlander Warrior vs. Predator. Pretty decent name if you ask me. The Czech Republic, however, would call it Vikings 2. What the fuck was Vikings 1? Anyways, the film name was pretty much settled on. The actor to play Kanan, however, was not. Carl Urban was considered, but he had to pull out due to him having the film Pathfinder. Ironically, another film featuring Scandinavians that I intend to watch one day. Both Thomas Jane of Punisher fame and Sharp himself, Sean Bean, were also possibilities. Actor Jack Huston broke his arm while performing a stunt without a mat. While rolling under the Morwen, he hit his shoulder, breaking it. He did, however, maintain himself until cut was called, which is praiseworthy. While the cast speaks English in the film, the dialogue Cavazel has with his computer at the start is actually done in proper 12th century Icelandic. While McCain would write the script in 1992, the script would be rewritten in 1998 when he met Dirk Blackman. Filming was initially aimed for New Zealand, but ended up being mostly done in Nova Scotia, Canada. A few scenes were shot in Newfoundland, thanks to an inlet that was used as a fjord in the film. Costume designer Deborah Hansen handled making the costumes while also using leftovers from the film Beowulf and Grendel, which is not the Grendel I grew up with, but will probably end up on this channel sooner or later. The Morwen was designed by creature designer Patrick Tatopoulos, apologies for that name pronunciation, free of charge. The name was a play on the name Morlock, from the H.G. Wells story, The Time Machine. The creature would actually be something praised by critics, but the film overall would be panned rather harshly in my opinion. For me, the film is a cult classic. It's a ton of ideas thrown together that realistically should have flopped. I guess it did flop, but you know what I mean. The film isn't perfect. It can take a bit to get going, and the lack of sense or urgency from some characters can throw you off. I will say that the second half makes up for any lacking of the first half. Some cool set pieces with fun action. The film isn't the deepest take on Beowulf, but it is one worth keeping on hand. I just find it hard to be mad at what is a rather fun film, and frankly, it isn't horrible. Speaking of horrible, I think it's time I take a break from fantasy and dragons and return to what started this film review series, horror. See you next time as I take a random look at a classical monster.